Can I just, oh, can I ask about they're not street standard, like the engines. They've got to be illegal to have those loud, right?
So yes, I'll preface this with this. In the state of California, you have to go through a course necessarily to send a vehicle to get what's considered barred. And that means they go to a facility where they make sure that the vehicle's to spec as it came from the dealership or when it was originally bought. Yes, so modified exhaust engine applications that are not California compliant, those are actions we can take. I'm looking to trying to join that course somewhere down the road. Again, staffing and training is another reason, something that I try to promote to the rest of the department as well. Areas that we can start. Again, if you have recordings and license plates, I'm going to start working with our supervisors. There's opportunities for us that when it happens and you know necessarily are able to capture because of public safety, we're not going to risk all that for risk the greater good of that. We can always try to go down the road and impound these vehicles just based on having license plates and having on video. That gives us opportunity through California vehicle code laws.
Thank you for thank you for the info.
I know there's two more hands up I see. So let's start off with Miss Elaine Wong since we've been working very diligently together.
Yes, thank you, Officer Lemus. So I know with some of the pictures I've emailed to the B8 officers, there were plates that were obviously not standard, either they're fake plates or vanity plates that were not properly registered. Are you even able to track those, or if you see them, could you stop those cars and cite them?
Absolutely. If I find them, again, I spend my nights parked at certain spots where you've mentioned. Luckily, when I'm on my watch, it just doesn't work out. It doesn't happen. But again, modified license plate is actually a misdemeanor crime. Something that I can take. But if that license plate does not coincide or come back to any vehicle for that matter, it's hard to then follow up on it. So it's really something of trying to catch them in traffic, or again, like I just mentioned earlier, I'm trying to work towards having a way so that we can go impound those vehicles. Oakland PD is pretty diligent about theirs. If you want to check out their website, I'm going to try to reach out to one of their members. They have an entire task force dedicated to the sideshow activity.
And then I'm not related to sideshows. In my neighborhood, Country Club Vista, I've heard word on the street from various neighbors that they've been having their cars being broken into, primarily on Rock Rose Way and so forth, but they're not reporting it to RPD. And is it something that you highly encourage them to do? Because even though they feel like nothing's getting done,
right?
For your awareness, should they still report it? Is that what you want?
So here's the caveat to that. Having limited information that would allow me to investigate it is truly sad. So pretty much as far as an investigation goes, we typically do it as well as a courtesy for insurance purposes. To do it, you're more than welcome to do it online, but that's all tracking. So that would allow me to then focus, because we do have an analyst in our department that would basically dictate to us, hey, there's an issue here, so we can focus on it. And that's something that as well is passed down to us. Again, from the crime stats that I'm seeing, some of what you're talking about also has into play for the limited scope of things.
Because I know, like I said, was it maybe 2 weeks ago, we had at least 3 cars I was aware of that was broken into. I think only one person bothered to file a report. And I was like, that's not helping the neighborhood if no one's filing reports about this.
Again, like I mentioned earlier, the issue at 3400 Richmond, I believe 6 vehicles were broken into, and we did document that report for everyone. So things like that do allow me to understand the problem areas, so to speak. So again, we've been working together. I make my way at least to patrol that area more often and be at least more present, so that way we can avoid these issues.
All right, thank you, Officer Lemus.
You're welcome. Let's go with who's been waiting the longest. I haven't been able to keep track of hands so far. Mr. Jim Perry.
I'll go. Michelle Marshall. I'm from Country Club Vista. I just wanted to thank you for your efforts and work that you're doing. We really appreciate you. And I just wanted to share some of the issues that I've seen lately. We have quite a few transients around the AM/PM location on Richmond Parkway and the San Pablo intersection. And then the other thing would be the speeding along San Pablo Avenue and Richmond Parkway.
Okay. As far as the transients that are congregated around the AM/PM, there's little patches in our beat in our area. I've been working towards offering them services and checking them out. I do get calls pretty often there regarding some of those individuals, some of which are suffering from mental health issues. So we then offer them services. They typically like to stay in that creek, in that bedside, and they're very obscured from at least the public eye. So it makes it difficult to try to walk down there without really exposing myself. The second part, which was the speeding. What hours of the day are you talking about specifically? Because
Often at night, I don't want to say they're drag racing, but often at night, you hear a lot of ruckus. And then even in the early mornings, you see a lot of speeding before the congestion builds.
right. So for the morning factor and during the week, luckily there's still a few traffic officers left. They have areas of focus, one being because we've done vehicle traffic operations down in that area as well for speeding multiple times that I've been involved in. Throughout the night, because it's just me, I can actually enforce traffic in that aspect. I'm trained on it. So it's a caveat for the community there. I just need to work with my partnering beat partner here for that. So I'll work with my sergeant on trying to do that, having a set time at least throughout the night to work that. And typically I would imagine that would be somewhere between
Thank
8
you.
about 11.
Thank you.
So definitely.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
All right, who's next? Let's keep it brief. We've got a full agenda. So go ahead. Who's next? Jim?
Jim, Jerry, I've got a quick question. Are these sideshows more common on the weekend evenings as opposed to weekdays, or are they pretty much regular throughout the week?
So I've heard of occasional Wednesday, Thursdays, but mostly, yes, it's a weekend thing. It's part of the movement. You know, some have been coined as Sunday Fun Day. I kind of keep a good following of that because having that knowledge to see where it comes from is important. Social media is a big factor for that. So I monitor it. There's areas of, you got folks coming in from Modesto, Oakland, Concord, and through at least social media, that's how they're maneuvering around. So I typically monitor it, and then we can get ahead of it in terms of combating it. And then as well, outside agencies, typically it's the sheriff's department that deals with it because they also congregate near the dead fish, typically down by the Crockett Bridge. So.
Thank you, Officer Lemus.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Hey, Alexander?
I believe he's muted still.
Hey.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you for your presentation. I sit on the Friends of the Richmond Greenway Committee every month, and I've been to multiple neighborhood councils, and this is the first time that I've actually seen somebody from the police department come and give a presentation. And I really thank you for that, and just would like to know how to get presence at specifically the Friends of the Richmond Greenway.
The Richmond Greenway. Could you remind me what streets that would be? I don't typically know them by districts. I typically just know them by the streets half the time.
Okay, it's a meeting that encompasses all of the nonprofits that basically work on the Richmond Greenway. And the Richmond Greenway, as you know, is a 3-mile long, basically horizontal railroad. Used to be a railroad path. It's a greenway through the city.
Okay. talking about,
McDonald Avenue.
so to speak? Okay, yeah. You're talking the greenway that splits Ohio Avenue and Chancellor and Bissell and all that. Yeah. Do I patrol down there? That's not my jurisdiction down there, so to speak. But yes, there are officers available, and that's typically where we have the most concentration of them. I'm not sure what area specifically of the greenway, because it is a very large path from the parkway all the way up to San Pablo Avenue. What areas are you want us to focus on that I could pass along at least to those beat officers?
Well, just to come to the meeting.
Okay. So I'll mention that to the supervisors, so that way we can have this. This is something as well that Lieutenant Bashan was kind enough to mention to me, and selected me to come out and talk to folks. So I could do that as well for you and pass along the message. That would be, well, depending on the area, it'd be between beat 7, which is still part of my district, and then 5 and 6, or sorry, 6 and 2.
I think we've got Arto's last. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Arto.
I just wanted to quickly and briefly mention that I work with RPD. Our neighborhood council works with RPD, and you're down to 45 officers from 70, 11 detectives from 44, and there's 19 vacancies right now. And reporting is way under because a lot of people don't want to report online. We've had 3 catalytic converters and a tailgate stolen in the last month on my street alone, right by the college off of Shane Drive. So, unfortunately, Captain Simmons told me that you guys are going to be going to 18-hour shifts. So my heart goes out to you guys, and stay safe.
Yeah, 18 hours has been since I started here. I've been with the department for about 4 years. Catalytic converter theft is something we have to actually, through an officer, have to document. It can't be reported online because of the value and the investigative factor we can take. Granted, it's a very large part of theft right now with the spike of everything. So again, I drive through that area pretty often. I hope we can give you the best service we have with the limited amount of officers we have left. And hopefully things can improve for the better of the city.
Yeah, and all of these are choices that our city council has made. So people should start tuning into the city council meeting and the reimagining task force meetings.
Definitely.
So, thank you.
I appreciate it, sir. And hopefully we can come out of it. Promoting every day to come work for the city. It's a great community. So I grew up locally, so I understand, and I have a greater heart towards everything here.
Thank you, Officer Lemus. We really appreciate your time. One thing I want to mention is that we've been dealing with donuts in the Hilltop Mall parking lot. Obviously, the area right in front of the Summer Lane is empty lot, and we've seen quite a few donuts in that parking lot early in the morning. So hopefully, if you could work with the security at the mall, I believe they have cameras as well. So that would really help us. Thank you.
Definitely. Sad to see the mall not as operable as it was in its great day. And it's now crowded with Amazon vans, but definitely I drive through there pretty often down there. I'll just make sure to clean up or check out the area between the areas of 5 and 6, if that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Right. Definitely.
Thank you.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to add about the time. They come here like could be even before 9 a.m. It could be 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Saturday mornings, they love coming here before 9. Even in the evening, it'd be 9 and right before 10, like regularly. So I just wanted to add that. Yeah, I don't hear. Maybe I'm still sleeping at 5 or 6. Anyway, thank you.
I would hope you're still sleeping at 5 and 6. Aside from that, my shift ends at 7 unless I'm being held over for, again, an 18-hour shift for covering that day shift. So I'm always able to pass along the message to the morning beat 8 officer, which on the weekend, that would be Officer Farr, who's a great officer in itself and a great person. So she, like myself, is very diligent about doing her job. So she'd be more than welcome to take on the task.
Marvin,
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Marvin, what were the areas of the mall again where this is happening in the morning?
It's right next to the Firestone auto mall. That there's a big open lot. I believe it's the J.C. Penney's parking lot. That's where this is happening.
Understand.
Yes,
You can see the tire marks. I went out there and there's several tire marks over there. And
Yeah.
it's been increasing in the last few
open
weeks.
lot.
You are correct. That is J.C. Penney's.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if we can get our security guard to kind of police that a little bit more early in the morning.
Definitely. And I believe, yeah, for quite some time, they actually too were able to monitor some of the sideshow activity and would give us a heads up as well. So I
Good.
appreciate it. Well, they're pretty diligent about doing their job, and I appreciate everything they do for us down in that area.
Thank you.
Officer Lemus, I'm sorry, really quick question, since I joined a little later. So is that when they have the helicopters coming around? Is it because that's when they're having their donut sessions?
So depending on the circumstances, yes, we always ask for air support in those circumstances because 100, 200 cars can split up very quickly into a vast amount of areas. So we typically try to coordinate them to get back on the freeway so they can go south, and CHP, who can take very different enforcement actions on the vehicle code because that's their expertise, right? Again, public safety is our biggest concern, right? Pushing out the issue in that circumstance. So yes, depending if the air unit's already in the air, they're monitoring, they're telling us, hey, they're coming from Concord or they're coming from some other area. But we typically use that resources because that they're quicker and they have a much better vision of what's really going on than us at the ground level trying to coordinate, make sure everything doesn't go poorly.
Right. Because that's what I hear. I hear helicopters, but I don't hear the circling. So.
Yeah, they are a very great asset, and they help out very, very well in that circumstance. They are able to, at least as well on their end, because it's an airship, they have the opportunities to work with their units through CHP and basically focus on a vehicle that potentially could be leading to it being impounded, an arrest, or citing them for that matter. And they record as well. So that's for them is their biggest caveat.
Ready. Well, thank you, officer. We will move down to our next agenda item, report from city manager, Sasha Curl. Welcome.
Hi there. Sorry that I was having Zoom problems earlier. I did this great thing and I logged onto some Skype link that was in my meeting request. So I don't know how that happened. So I apologize. And then you got to hear me coming in the house and trying not to let the dog out. So it was I was walking in the door. So I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself. I was invited to join this meeting this evening, and so just wanted to give a little context. Some of you I have had the pleasure of meeting before. Again, my name is Shasta Curl. I was recently appointed as acting city manager, and then more recently as permanent city manager. I've been with the city, worked with Bill Lindsay very closely in the city manager's office starting back in 2011, and then prior to that, had worked in redevelopment for many years. And so I spent a lot of my career working on projects to improve the built environment, like the Civic Center renovation and the ferry terminal and things like that. So I appreciate the opportunity to continue to serve the community of Richmond. And so I thought it might be helpful if I just talk a little bit about some of the priorities that I'm working on, and then make myself available to answer questions. And so real briefly, one of the primary things I've been working on is a campaign called I Heart Richmond. The goal of that campaign is to improve the built environment. We have a Hilltop District neighborhood cleanup scheduled for August 6th. And there are multiple cleanup activities happening throughout the city it's not quite to a weekly basis is what I would like to get to on the weekends, but we are making sure that we coordinate with all the available neighborhood councils and offer cleanups. And then we're doing targeted cleanups in areas such as Nystrom Village. We recently had a cleanup there because the city, in partnership with the Housing Authority, we own 4 blocks in that area. And so just really want to try to help make sure it remains clean. The other thing that we're working on is staffing. As you heard, there's a significant staffing shortage right now. There's 127 vacancies as of April 26th. And so that is very difficult for all of our staff, including our police officers and members of our other public safety units. And so our HR department is working to fill these positions. It's a difficult and it's a tight job market. And so that is definitely exasperating the situation. Also focused on Measure U implementation, which is the voter approved measure that passed in November 2020 to pivot from a business license that was utilizing number of employees and a base rate to one with a tiered rate structure that focused on gross receipts. So far, the city has collected 4.9 million in revenue. 38% of businesses have paid, and 76% of the anticipated revenue has been collected thus far. So as you can see, we have a number of businesses that have not yet complied or have not yet provided data. So our projections continue to remain in flux. In terms of the fiscal year 22-23 budget, that's usually something that residents are interested in. We did have a presentation at the Richmond Neighborhood Council. The City Council has received the first draft of the fiscal year 22-23 proposed budget. They received that today. It's very much in a draft form. They generally receive it at this time. At this juncture, without any of the increases in personnel or equipment or implementation of the class and comp study, we have a gap of about $1.9 million, but we think that we will be able to work to close that gap in the coming weeks prior to the adoption of the budget. So I think we're off to a really good start, but it does not include many of the requests from the departments. So just wanted to share that with you all. And in terms of other items, I know that our community development director and senior planner, Lena Velasco and Roberta Feliciano, are on next to talk about the specific plan, which I think is really exciting. And so with that, I am happy to answer any questions and would welcome the opportunity to come back again to this meeting if invited to do so. I think it's really important to be engaged with the residents. And I know that since we're still in a pandemic, or, people have varying thoughts about that now, but when I'm at City Hall, I wear a mask because I think it's just really important for us to keep each other safe. And since we have significant health disparities in our community, we want to be extra vigilant. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I can't, I'm on, if the facilitator can call on folks, that would be great. So then that way I can listen.
Sure.
And then I also don't want anyone thinking I have favorites, especially like Ardo, I wouldn't want him to get any ideas that, I'm going to call on him first. Just kidding.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Otto.
I was just wondering if the state audit has come in yet and what the results are, and could you tell the viewers about the ARPA money and how it's been spent?
Sure. Yes, the state audit has commenced, and they have us in an introductory meeting, and then they tell us we're not allowed to talk about it until it's over. So it was really fascinating. That's how it went, and that's how it's going. They are working with and interviewing respective staff members and collecting information, and they go through this process and then they give us a report. So I'm hoping it goes well, but I'm new to this role and new to this position. So I'm cautiously optimistic. And then in terms of the ARPA funding, as part of the presentation that was provided last Tuesday for the city manager's office, Miss LaShonda White, who has been taking the lead on ARPA, for the city did provide an overview. So it is in that PowerPoint that was out for last Tuesday from the city manager's office, a detailed list of things that have been proposed. There's also a community needs assessment that's going to take place to help inform how the city may consider spending those dollars. So if it would be helpful, I can maybe look for the presentation in the chat, or I think one of my colleagues might be on here, and we can either put the link in the chat or email it to the group. And so you can see the spreadsheet with all of the expenditures.
Thank you.
I don't have them all committed to memory. I just know, for example, the North Richmond Pump Station, some work on the MLK Field, some funding for unhoused, some funding for
Rise.
for RISE. I think it was the Richmond Rapid Response Fund, which I think they're probably one of the stakeholders in that group, but we'd be happy to provide a list. It's all public information, so we're happy to provide a list.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Sean.
Hi, Shasa.
Hi.
Thanks for all your work. You must be overwhelmed. I'm always impressed with what a positive attitude you always seem to have. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I'm wondering, kind of similar to Ardo's question, do you know anything about the class and comp study results and when that's going to be public?
That's another very interesting hot topic. So what we're in the process of meeting and conferring with our public safety units. So we're in active negotiations right now. So there is an inquiry that's pending with our city attorney regarding that. And I think once that's finalized, we'll have more information. Also, our finance department, I think just recently, actually, our finance director, who's new to her role, but is amazing. She's been with the city for a long time, and she's very sharp. She is working through verifying the data that was provided by the consultant team and verifying the assumptions and all of that. And so to me, it's really important if we measure twice and cut once. And so we want to try to put out something that is statistically valid and accurate, and that, you know, all of the Excel sheets tie and there's no hiccups in the model. So we would like to get it done sooner rather than later, but I'm not exactly sure what the definitive timeline is going to be due to us being in active negotiations.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Sasha, again, thank you very much for coming to our meeting. We really appreciate your work. One thing
Thank
we
you.
would like your help is on, it's on agenda item 8, and Marcia was supposed to be here to talk about it this evening, but she couldn't. It's the
I have someone for you that knows way more about this than I ever will. A gentleman named Yoder Bermudez, our former public works director. We appreciate him so much. That he still works a little bit. Probably he works more than a little bit, but you know, he's a retired annuitant. He's on the call and he's prepared to speak to that item when you get to it.
Okay, wonderful. Are you talking about the
Thank
gateway
you.
signs on Bloom?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, we'll just wait till we get to that item.
He's still here, right? I saw him earlier.
Yeah, he
Yoder.
is. Yeah,
okay,
he is.
great. Yes, he's prepared to speak to that item.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions from anyone? I don't see any raised hands. Well, in that case, thank you, Shasha. We hope to continue to host you every quarter. If
okay,
willing to
yes,
come.
I welcome. I will certainly make it a priority to do so, and I will try not to call in and have you hearing the ruckus in the background.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, bye now.
All right, let's move on to item number 7, update on Hilltop specific plan from Lena and Roberta.
Good evening, President Katri, and to all of the Hilltop District Neighborhood Council. If it's okay with you, I have a quick presentation to share, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're here to provide, and the Director of Community Development, Lena Velasco, is also here and will be available at the end of the presentation for any questions. But the purpose of us being here tonight is to provide an update on the Hilltop Horizon specific plan. There are going to be 5 main points. First is the branding. The second is focus area, community outreach, the timeline, and next steps. So for the branding, we've been working with a consultant on the logo, which, as you can see here, features the H for Hilltop and Horizon. We've also worked on a color palette. The primary colors are the blue, the orange, and some yellow. It does also have some pops of green and a little bit more vibrant colors that make the branding more attractive. And we've also worked on clarifying the fonts, selecting a font that is clear and legible. For the focus area, I think most of you are familiar with this, with the focus area. It is primarily the Hilltop Mall and some of the surrounding businesses. Currently, the mall is zoned CM5. And that CM5 is commercial mixed use activity center. The district is intended for mid and high rise mixed use development at major activity centers to serve the community and residents and businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area. It allows for office, retail, entertainment, and residential uses. Standards of physical form will create an urban character as envisioned in the general plan, with streets with minimal setbacks, sidewalks, and public spaces that cater to pedestrians and transit riders. And then there are a few areas along Garrity Way and up Bloom Drive that are zoned CR, which is regional commercial. And that's more intended for mid to mixed use development and regional shopping centers, such as, of course, the former Hilltop Mall, the Pacific East Mall, Target. Again, there it's characterized by intensive development of retail space in compact pedestrian-friendly environments. And it also allows for office, retail, residential in mid-rise buildings. So the next part, and I'm sure the part that everyone's most excited about, is the community outreach. So the next part of the first part of the community outreach is the stakeholder interviews. And then we would also have advisory committee meetings and community meetings. And for the timeline, I believe this was already shared. Currently, we're in Q1, Q2. So the consultant team is working on data collection and existing conditions. Then we would move on to scenario planning, preferred plan selection that would be in the beginning of next year, and technical studies, and then the specific plan and environmental document preparation towards the end of 2023, and hopefully, fingers crossed, adoption of the Hilltop Horizon specific plan in the end of 2023 or early 2024. And for the next steps. So in early June, we are hoping to begin the stakeholder interviews. The city would identify agencies, partners, a representative from the neighborhood council that we would then meet with and take interviews from, of what they would envision for the plan. The advisory committee formation would also then take place in May or June. Fingers crossed, the first community workshop is in the summer of 2022, which is very exciting. And also, we did just create, and this was just created by the consultant today a website, which is www.hilltophorizon.com. And you can also email us to get any info, or if you have any questions or inquiries, you can send that email to hilltophorizon@ci.richmond.ca.us. And then very quickly, I can also share kind of a preview of the Hilltop Horizon website. It just provides an overview of the project, the 143-acre site, and again, the maps. But importantly, on the contact, it provides the city email again here, and then you can also send us a message. And with that, we'll go ahead and take any questions.
Questions from anyone? All right, Jake, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. This is great. Is there a way to add email addresses for updates as this progresses? I mean, obviously the Hilltop Neighborhood Council will be one way, but I'm just curious if there's like some kind of way to, like an email listserv or something you guys have.
Or, I mean, yes, we're definitely going to collect emails and have a listserv. So yes, you'll be able to subscribe.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I have a question. Is there a graph yet with the percentage of what would be, from my understanding, there was going to be some warehousing. Has that changed?
I can respond to that, Roberta. So we're still in the process of engaging residents and community members as to what will be the future uses at Hilltop. So we haven't decided what the ultimate land use changes are. I will note that if warehousing is envisioned, it will be a new land use that isn't currently contemplated in the general plan. So that will be part of the community discussion around the specific plan.
Yes, because I live really close to the mall, and I don't want this to make about complaints, but the fleets of vehicles has been an issue with traffic and noise ongoing. And I really, we need to, consider the community needs and the traffic flow. Obviously, and I hope it's going to be geared toward what I first saw, which was the mixed use, and it was a really beautiful presentation. I think Ardo perhaps did that meeting with all the neighborhood councils. So that would be great to get the community involved, and maybe there's other opportunities for warehousing in the very, very, other areas perhaps. Thank you.
Okay, Marla?
Hi. How do you become a stakeholder, and who decides that one is a stakeholder?
So we'll be working with the consultant team. I think what our goal is to try to identify individuals who could represent groups and take information back. So typically it includes property owners, business owners, area residents, as well as some large stakeholders. So in this case, there's a lot of schools, so maybe some representative of schools, in addition to utilities and transit providers. So we tried to identify individuals that will have large stakes in the future of the development. So the goal isn't to that be the only input process. I mean, obviously we'll have community meetings, and the goal is actually that those representatives would take information back to other constituents similar to them, whether it's property owners, business owners, or neighborhood council representatives.
Okay, thank you.
David?
Hello, yes. I'm feeling out of the loop, so maybe my question is just something everyone else listening knows the answer to. But this is the first time I've ever heard the term Hilltop Horizon, so I'm unclear on just what the name refers to. Is it this planning process, or is that the intended name eventually of the area outlined by the map, or what is Hilltop Horizon the name of?
It's the branding we're putting for the specific plan. So it is for the planning effort. The idea here is we're looking at a development horizon, and, you know, obviously we wanted to pay homage to Hilltop, and, you know, that from parts of Hilltop, there are bay views and you can see the horizon. So that was our branding, just to make it a easier way to convey what this planning effort is doing. So it is not tied to any specific development. It was just something we do as part of larger projects. So for example, Richmond Bay specific plan also had its branding.
Ron?
Hi. Yeah, I'm really glad to see this information coming out now, and how exciting it is to see that we're at the beginning of a process that could lead to something truly remarkable. And I'm wondering, I just want to put it out there and maybe ask what the intentions are about how widely to involve people, because I think even though certainly the immediate neighborhood of Hilltop is certainly probably the most relevant in terms of immediate issues and concerns and desires, but you know, the history of Hilltop is something that, for better or for worse, affects the entire city of Richmond, including economic development questions and whatnot. So I'm just, can you say anything about the intent to include all perspectives from all over Richmond as stakeholders in this process?
Yeah, and this is a conversation we've had with our consultants and certainly with several others that I've already met with before, but our intent is to engage everyone outside, not just the neighborhood, but all Richmond residents, because Hilltop, one, it's an important change area for the city. And it can, like you said, provide opportunities for jobs, housing, employment. And so we do believe that, plus it's a regional destination, and we hope that through this visioning process, it really does reflect the input of the broader Richmond community. However, we do understand that area residents would ultimately be directly affected by those impacts. And so we do intend, as we go through the environmental studies that will also be associated with the land or the development vision that considers that, and we'll have input processes. So we do plan to have it be a broader and wide engagement, but also understand that there may need to be some more direct information sharing with the area residents.
And also, just real quick, I would think it would be in their interest and everybody's interest for Prologis to be transparent about what their hopes and dreams would be as well from the get-go. So we're not playing with rumors about who wants to do what. We just get it all out there and we work on it together.
Yeah, and we're definitely encouraging them to participate in the process, as well as, you know, acknowledge that they're an important and large property owner within the area. And so their involvement and through my conversations with them, they're committed to working with us through this process.
Thank you.
You know, on the same point, on the stakeholder engagement, now I know we have a stakeholder interview, so you'll meet with the community, you'll meet with businesses, you'll meet with Prologis, who's a very big stakeholder in this process. But my concern with this engagement process is that you'll talk with each one of them separately. And obviously, if you talk to the communities, nobody's going to say, well, I want a modern logistic facility. You're not going to hear that from the community, but you will hear that from Prologis, right? So how are we going to sort of, bring that all together so that we get something that's A, realistic, and B, what community wants, what the stakeholder wants, and what everyone can get behind? How do you envision that?
Yeah, so the stakeholder interviews will be held potentially in small groups too. So for example, if we have a stakeholder interview with neighborhood representatives, it could be a group from the same category as well as property owners. In some case, they may be individual, like for electeds or planning commissioners. But the goal is to have very candid, unscripted discussions with the consultant team. Even staff may not be involved in those. It would be more the consultant, and we will summarize all of that input in a summary document and however, we won't attribute any specific comments to any particular person, just so that it can be, people can be truthful. However, when we do the steering committee or the project advisory committee, it will have representatives of these key stakeholders that will provide us some input throughout the process. And then as well as in the community meetings, we expect that we'll all be in the same Zoom room or potentially in-person room. So we will have opportunities to hear various perspectives in different environments, but we also want some uncandid, comments too.
Thank you. Who's next? Arto.
I have some uncandid comments. I was just curious, are you going to have a notify me button on the city website for updates?
Yes, that will be how we do the listserv. And so when we do engagements or things get posted onto the website, that we'll be able to send out emails. And we promise not to flood your inboxes, but it is an easy way to get information out. So if you're definitely interested, so we will share that with Bhavin to share with his listserv.
And then, so I'm looking forward to seeing Prologis's plan for the property. I'd like to see how it meshes with the city's vision. And also like to invite everybody here, the ladies from the city, and I'm hoping Samita from Prologis will be able to meet with us in July at our neighborhood council meeting. It'll be in person. Everybody here is invited. So lastly, I do have a question about, is there any way of tracking the hours and the money that's actually being spent on creating this project?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so I will say the consultant team will report its hours through its invoicing and the costs for all of the subs. I will say the city was successful in getting $1.25 million to help fund this effort. So it's not being funded through, property taxes and general fund. It's all grant funded.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think it becomes a little bit harder for Roberta and I to track every minute, that we're spending on it, since we're not billing towards the project. But we will have our consultant teams through their invoicing report that.
And lastly, when's the sign coming down?
Well, the council approved a contract with the contractor, and we're working on getting the required insurance and working with the contractor to schedule that. So we will, I'm assuming most folks know that the current sign, the freeway sign, is not repairable. And so we're going to take it down, because we understand the blight and the nuisance it's become, but we are preserving the easement that would allow a future sign to be erected if that's desired as part of the visioning process.
Thank you.
Next question from Marietta.
So I'm going to go ahead and piggyback on what Arjo was saying about the sign. And so I know this is like very superficial at the moment, but the branding, when you have the Hilltop Horizon, is that it? That's what's going to be like erected as part of the sign, or that's just an internal document for the project?
That's correct. The internal document for the project. So when our website, you'll, instead of typing in Hilltop specific plan, you'll type in Hilltop Horizon. That'll be the website, the email, But it's not meant to be a sign. You will see it on reports and memos that we issue as part of the planning effort, but it's not a branding of any particular property. It's just of our planning effort.
Okay, great. I was like, is that Hilltop Mall? Okay, just.
I'm sure the marketers will come up with something different for whatever gets built.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
I have a question for Lena. Can I ask, or is somebody ahead of me in line, Bhavin?
No, I think that you're next. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Lena, I'm curious, is the city of, since you've identified this area as a priority development area and you're spending so much time, yours and so many other people in the city, are there going to be any incentives offered by the city to help catalyze, the uses that the community is looking for? Any type of tax incentives or anything like that? Because you don't see a lot of that development happening in Richmond, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I think that, it being designated a priority development area, there's certainly those opportunities. There will be different, currently, like, for example, there's ASIC, Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities grants that if you're, so it's really going to depend on what finally gets envisioned, but as a PDA, there's also One Bay Area grants that can be focused on transportation or street improvements or mobility improvements, transit improvements. So the official designation of a priority development area, which are designations by the Association of Bay Area Governments to areas that should be receiving growth, whether it's in housing or employment opportunities. And this is one of those areas that has growth potential for the region. So, but I think ultimately, Samita, will likely depend on what the final vision is and what's available. But there are opportunities on the transportation, as well as some projects, some development proposals such as affordable housing or mixed income housing could be eligible for public funds.
Okay. As an example, I've heard a lot of people in the community always say they want more retail amenities and certain type of retail because there isn't enough in the vicinity. And, when we look at it from a market perspective and talk to brokers and people who lease and sell and build that real estate, there's a lot of vacant retail that's not succeeding in Richmond. That's what they see, right? So anything we can do to help mitigate that for this area would be helpful, whether it's a tax incentive or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, as part of the project, we're doing market studies, but we will also look at project financing for public improvements that get envisioned and really try to understand the economics of what the final vision is. Because, one of the key things we're hearing is we want an implementable plan. We don't necessarily want the pie in the sky of something that will never be realized. And so there is a balancing act of looking at financing and budgets and stuff. So that will be part of the work that's done by our consultant team.
Thank you.
I don't see any more raised hands. One last question for you, Lena, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate forum, but if group of leaders are meeting with Prologis, would you be interested in that process to just talk about, so that we can all align ourselves on the vision and help provide consistent feedback in the Hilltop specific plan?
Well, certainly open to discussing that with you. I think I'd want to understand what my role in the room would be.
Everybody's just a listener, I guess.
Okay, I'm always happy to listen if I'm available. But I think Erika's hand was up.
Yeah, it is. Just a very quick question. I know we ran out of time, but the question is, we have so much traffic now. Well, it's not a lot, but we have increased traffic in Summer Lane because of the schools and Amazon and the different trucks. So my concern is once we do get the mall built and we have more business and industry increases, Are you guys gonna be looking at the city and this street and the way you're gonna be able to, the infrastructure around the mall? Because
Yes.
I know we have people flying, we have the Amazon trucks going way above the speed limit, and somebody must have had the city do a sting, they had a sting operation this morning where they were catching people for speed. But this area is not really built for a lot of traffic. based on the
Yes.
speeds right now.
Yeah, Erica, we will be looking at associated infrastructure related to the development vision. So when we get to a preferred land plan, we'll be looking at, what new streets, and what we want to try to do is obviously slow down the traffic in a reasonable fashion, but then also bring in other options. So maybe enhancing the transit that's available, bike routes and trails and sidewalks, so that not everybody feels like they need to drive to the site. So, or at least not individually. So we'll be looking for maximum ways of reducing traffic in the area, as well as enhancing safety around the traffic that is generated.
One more question. So currently Amazon is operating out of the parking lot, and I know Prologis, the new owner, inherited that contract from the previous owner. But if this area is sort of mixed use, CM5, are those kind of activities allowed out of parking lot?
You mean just parking in a parking lot?
Well, they're actually, I'm not sure if they're just parking in the parking lot, right? It's, well, I don't know what they're doing over there, but I know the vans are full of packages and they have their morning meetings, and it's a Amazon partner program. That's, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but that's a business where an individual runs a group of driver and he dispatches the driver. So that sort of operation is being run out of the mall parking lot.
Well, certainly as part of the planning effort, we'll be doing a land use table that defines uses that would be allowed, as well as whether they're permitted outright or if they're conditionally allowed. So the plan will include specifics around these issues. And certainly I think as logistics facilities are coming into Richmond, we may need to take some more time and maybe further defining the uses related to logistics.
Well, I just want to add there, the vehicles are being stored there, and that's where the Amazon or the other fleets, there's different ones, come there and get their vehicles to go off and do the deliveries.
Well, thank you, Lena. Also, you have one more last question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, I spoke to you before. How are you going to circumnavigate or circumvent Measure U? And is it possible to use Measure U as an incentive to attract businesses by, maybe allowing them to circumvent Measure U?
I at this point, I wouldn't know what you mean by circumvent, but we need to remember that Measure U was passed by the voters. And so if there's any amendment to it, it may require going back to the voters. So I'd have to research it, but we're certainly open to exploring ideas that get generated through the planning process.
Okay, thank you.
Charlotte, see your hands up.
Yeah, and I think we also need to be extremely mindful of the environmental impacts of all of this. What it's doing to our children, what it's doing to ourselves, and what it's doing to Mother Earth. So we just have to really be honest about what we really want here and for the future of our children.
Agreed.
All right, on that note, well, thank you, Lena. We really appreciate it, and we'll certainly invite you in our next quarterly meeting for the similar update. We really appreciate it.
And Roberta too. She's the one that's keeping this ship moving. So
thank you, Roberta. Really appreciate your work on this.
Yeah, thank you both.
Good evening, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye, ladies.
All right, so now item number 8, update on gateway sign. So I'm not sure if you're, most of you are probably who attended the last meeting. We sort of showed plans for the signs at the Bloom Drive and Richmond Parkway, right in front of Chevron gas station, where there's an old sign that says Richmond City of Pride and Purpose. And we've been trying to replace that sign or install a new sign at that location for the last several years, but we're running into quite a few difficulties. Well, one being we're trying to find out from City of Richmond Finance Department how much budget is in our HLMD budget. So that based on the funding available, we can install what type of signs and what style of sign to install. We have 2 concept drawing that Marsha was going to share. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, but I believe we have the other who may have some updates. So go ahead. Or is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Marsha asked me to come over since she and I work on this project for many years. I was looking at the plans, and this was, it goes back to April 11, 2016. So it was prepared under the direction of the Hilltop business community. Again, to provide these a few signs, at the 2 entrances on Hilltop Drive and also on Bloom as a new gateway to the community. Unfortunately, the money was not there to build all the signs. I mean, we did one on the Hilltop Drive, and then, because there were other needs in the Hilltop area, I mean, the money, was not available to do all the projects. So now Marsha told me that you guys are interested in doing sign number 4. I don't know if you guys have seen those plans before from Marsha.
Yeah, we have. We share with the community in the last meeting. So everybody knows here that we're trying to do sign number 4. That's where we want to go. I think we really want to find out where are we with the budget and who do we need to talk to from city to see how much budget we have, because this is we're just running in circles about the same presentation. So really, I excuse my frustration, but I've been trying to work with everyone in city and I'm not getting any answers. So what do we need to talk to find out how much budget we have so we can get a sign up there?
Okay, I guess they asked me that to be because I'm the one that knows everything about this project. Fortunately for you guys, the plans are ready. According to Marsha, I mean, she needs to just clean up, updated the plans because they were prepared back in 2016, 2018. She said that she would have to do just a cleanup for and a separation from the multiple site to number 4. So that would be easy to get it done, but in a couple of weeks, we can, or she can take care of the plans. Now, I requested a budget because I came back with the city, but I'm not working on this specific issue until this evening that they asked me whether I can help them. And I'm looking at the budget and there is sufficient money or funds to build that sign. According to Marsha, the estimated cost is about between $200,000 and $250,000. It is a beautiful sign, the one on the Hilltop Drive is really nice. That was the last one that I coordinated, building. So what I'm gonna do from here, I gotta go back to the city manager and understand my role on this because I'm a retired public work director assisting the city, and there is a public work director, in charge of the department. So I had to get that clarified, and what am I gonna do? I would be willing to help, because they brought me back for the wastewater plant we got about $80–90 million under construction, and slowly I've been picking up all the other projects that nobody is doing and they become important. So this one might be another project. That I'm,
yeah, we've been meeting with Joe Leach on monthly basis, and we are talking about this on monthly basis. So we're ready to do sign number 4. Only thing we're waiting for, and Marsha told me that she can get the plans, redevelop the new sign drawings in a couple of weeks. So we're there as well. And now, so you're saying that we do have budget funding availability to do the sign number 4? Am I hearing that correct?
Looking at the budget that I was given today for the Hilltop district, I mean, there is sufficient funds to build sign number 4.
Perfect. So now it's just a matter of putting things in motion. So what would you suggest would be the next?
If everybody is happy with that sign number 4, we don't want to hear that now after so much work, somebody say, I don't like it, we gotta redo it, blah, 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 blah. That's a different issue. So if you guys are all focused on, let's build that sign, we can get it done, in the next 6 months, 6 months to a year.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we've discussed the sign already. We've already gone through all that process. So
we already spent a lot of funds,
Yeah. Okay, so then should we set up a meeting with you, or should I set up a meeting with you to discuss the next steps, or what's the?
I will get back to Shaza tomorrow, and ask her. I'm happy to help.
Okay, perfect.
And I spent 40 years with the city, and and I'm very proud of all the building that we did in the city during those 40 years, especially reconstructing the Richmond Parkway every year before every winter. So we were spending a lot of money, So that shouldn't be a problem. I'm willing to do it. I just wanted to make sure that the roles are defined.
Well, then I'll reach out to you separately, and then we can discuss further on next steps.
Yep. But
I have a question. How did this come about to decide the money? I mean, I don't understand if there's a budget for certain categories. I've been concerned about our Hilltop Lake Park. There was $100,000 allocated for that. It was never used. It was labeled as an underutilized park, which is not true. I was on the committee to save that lake last year, and we won that and kept the park in our city. I'd like to know what happened to that. We need, there's a lot of things we need there for access and benches and maybe some portable bathrooms. There's what happened to working on that? That's a lot of money for a sign.
I am not aware of the improvement that you are talking about, improving the lake. I assume is at the bottom of the lake. I'm not aware of that project.
Yeah, that was in 2016. The former president of the council, he was not the president at the time, but Cesar Zepeda is.
Yeah, Cesar for many, many years, but
yes. So
she's correct. I was really active at that point. I think, Yada, really what people are trying to say is we would really like our quality of life to equate to the taxes that we pay.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see so many things just being, just being maintained and no improvements, and the other cities' public works departments are seeming to be able to execute their community's visions and execute the tax dollars, it creates frustration. I know I was on the committee in 2016 for these gateway signs, and we're now in 2022, and you're saying we need to wait 6 months. So it's just kind of frustrating.
Well, let me tell you, when Cesar was, involved, there was a lot of money. That's why the district ran out of funds to build the signs, because there was a lot of money invested into the land along the Richmond Parkway and around the whole Hilltop. So, per direction of the Hilltop business, because obviously the business brings most of the money to the business. I mean, they were responsive to the dealership, etc. So that's why there was no more enough money to build all the signs. But now that I look at this budget, there is money sufficient to build sign number 4. There is no more money to do 2 signs. And in regard to how the budget is prepared, it is the special district that you guys paid, plus a contribution from the city. That's your budget. I mean, I think it's a 75-25 ratio, 75 your taxes and 25% the city. So probably now that the Hilltop business doesn't seem to be involved, is not involved too much, then the money started fortunately to accumulate back into the reserve, because the district has a reserve as part of that budget. So there is money in the reserve to build that sign.
Well, I still
Lorraine,
like, thank you.
Lorraine,
I would like to know what happened to the money for the park.
Lorraine, you might want to reach out, because we're meeting with Joe Leach on a monthly basis, and I'm happy to invite you that meeting. So this is where we can bring up these kind of items. So there's a list of things that our community wants to do, and we need to put together a list, and one by one we should tackle them.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the sign information too. And I agree, the signs are important too.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Are there anybody else have any questions?
Thank you. That's a lot of money for a sign. That's all I gotta say. I agree with her. That's a lot of money for a sign.
Okay.
The meeting of that.
Next item, we have presentation on Travel Safe Richmond project from Donnie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bobby, you're gonna call me later tomorrow, Monday?
Yes, I will.
We can find out, what my role is, okay?
Absolutely.
Hello, everybody. I'm Danny, project manager of Rich City Rides. I will be brief, I promise. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. So, Rich City Rides is a nonprofit organization fiscally sponsored by Urban Tilth. We are collaborating with Alta Planning and Fair and Piers and the City of Richmond on a project called Travel Safe Richmond. And I'll explain briefly what Travel Safe Richmond is, and then get to the main matter after a quick intro. Travel Safe Richmond is the city's two-pronged approach to improving roadway safety for all users: people walking, biking, rolling, and driving. All components of Travel Safe Richmond are working together to create unified policies and infrastructure recommendations for improving roadway conditions throughout the city of Richmond. Input from city stakeholders and community members is a critical component of this effort. We hope you will share your experiences, challenges, and vision for the future of travel in Richmond. As you can see right here, and I'm going to drop the link on the chat. So that everybody can take a look at travelsaferichmond.org. You can see the details, you can read more about it, and you can see a timeline as well of the project. The main thing that we're asking you to do today as concerned citizens of the Hilltop district is to go into this interactive map tool that you can see when you scroll down. Right here, right now on the interactive tool, you can leave feedback on existing infrastructure and your travel patterns. You can draw points of interest and other locations you want to share your thoughts on. Right here is to draw a route, or right here is the option to add a point. You can leave feedback on as many comments as you would like. In addition, right here, you can see the map. Right now I have it as not showing comments, but when you see comments, I'm going to click show comments. There are right now no comments on the Hilltop area. That's why we're reaching out. We would really like to get feedback from your end Like I said, the city of Richmond is listening. You can leave as many comments as you'd like. And one cool thing about this is that you can click on, you can leave your own comments, but you can also click on a comment that someone already made, read what they said, see who that person is, or it could be anonymous. And then you can either like or dislike or make a comment on top of the comment that someone else made. I already heard that there are a lot of concerns about donuts and speeding, and this is a good tool to put that information because the city of Richmond is listening, and this is the first phase. One of the main first phases is listening to the constituents, getting feedback. Then that's going to get analyzed, and based on that feedback, there will be solutions that will be proposed. Hopefully, we can come back in a few months after we get feedback and do another presentation where we have some solutions based on the feedback that was provided by you. If there's some time, I can show you really quick how it works. You can just go to the map, do add a route, and you can do a whole route. For example, from this side all the way to this side. You finish drawing and then you go into put your name, or you can leave it anonymous. You can select what option. You're talking about missing or damaged bike facilities, or missing or damaged sidewalks, or a route that works well. If you're really happy with something, you can put that there. Now, one more thing to note is that you can put future routes that you would like to see. If you would like to go from the door of your house to a certain park, a school, a business, and that route doesn't exist just yet, but you would like for that to exist, you may do so here as well. Hopefully it can be built in the future so you can take that more direct route or the route that you would like. That's the basics of the presentation. I can also drop a link, a email address on the chat for any folks that may have questions to follow up. And I can also, if there's any time, I can also try to answer any questions that to the best of my abilities right now.
I just want to say this is fantastic. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much.
All right. Any questions from anyone? Okay, seeing none. Well, thank you, Donnie. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for your time and having us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, the last item on the agenda, update on Measure U from Richmond Chamber of Commerce President James Lee. So a bit of a background on this. As you are aware, our district have lots of businesses from car dealership to retails. And we want to make sure that all businesses stay in our district, and we're also trying to attract more business, right? Hopefully if Hilltop Mall is rebuilt to retail and entertainment and things of that nature, then we'll be attracting more business, and we want to make sure that we support our businesses. So hopefully James can provide us overview on Measure U and talk about some of the challenges that they have seen with Measure U. That'd be great. So James, floor is yours.
Hope everyone's doing well. My name is James Lee. I am the CEO for Richmond Chamber of Commerce. We currently have around 300 businesses who are members of the chamber. Many of our members pay dues, ranging anywhere from $250 to above to be a member of the chamber. What we do as a chamber, we provide networking opportunities for businesses. We host mixers, events where businesses can come together and engage in what they're doing with the community. We're also advocate for small businesses, particularly Measure U have been really a difficult measure that many of the businesses are struggling. So I'm coming from the business perspective. And I'm sure after I share a little bit and some questions, others may have the opposite side of the perspective. So let me just give you a really brief synopsis of Measure U. So Richmond, City of Richmond, back in November of 2020, there was a ballot that was sent out, and people and the voters voted on approving the Measure U. And essentially what the Measure U did was it changed from where businesses were had to get their business license, which is also called business tax. Originally, it was based on number of employees. So if you had one employee, you would pay a yearly business tax of $234.10. And the first 25 businesses, you would add $46.80 per business. So as you can imagine, the bigger your business is, more employee, you paid more. Back in November, it was put on a ballot for the voters to vote to change from number of business employees to gross revenue. Gross revenue could go anywhere from 0.03 to all the way up to 5%. Highest being cannabis businesses who currently pays 5% gross revenue. The Hilltop movie theater pays 0.3% revenue, gross revenue. And so that Measure U was passed. Lena mentioned that Measure U was voted. If anything needs to change, it needs to go back to the voters. But we have to keep in mind that the Measure U specifically states that 5% of gross revenue is the ceiling. And the city council has the latitude of lowering that percentage based on the need of the business community, and hopefully business community and our community. So how has this affected our community? When my son turned 18, he wanted to buy a car. So obviously I went to Hilltop Auto Center, and we purchased a car for my son. And while they were fueling the car, while they were cleaning the car, we went to eat at the Hilltop restaurant. And by the time we came back, my son was very happy, and we drove off. Hilltop has a lot of businesses, and particularly the bigger business in Hilltop is the auto center, the auto stores there. So here's a simple breakdown how the Hilltop Toyota would be paying. So originally Hilltop Toyota, because of the number of employees, were paying close to about $9,000 a year in business tax. But with the new Measure U, they will be ending up paying $356,177 a year to stay open. They actually took that same number, and with the same amount of gross tax, if they were to go to Fairfield, they would only be paying $13,000 a year in business tax. If they were to go to Davis, they would only be paying $7,000 a year in business tax. Richmond has the highest business tax. Imagine auto dealer, just to have a business license in Richmond, they're going from $9,000 a year to $356,000 a year. Costco was paying close to $20,000 a year in business tax. With this new Measure U, they're estimating that their business tax will go up to close to $750,000 a year to have a business license here in Richmond. So I believe what's going to happen is a lot of these businesses who pay extraordinary amount of money to stay business in Richmond, they will eventually leave. The $356,000 in business tax that Hilltop Toyota has to pay every year just to keep the door open is potentially amount of money of net, maybe even less. My understanding, they actually net less than that. And so it may be cheaper for them to just leave. And I think what's going to happen is the quality of life in Richmond is going to diminish. Workforce going to diminish. businesses will go to El Cerrito. Businesses will leave Richmond. We started to put a list together of all the businesses who have already left because of Measure U, and that list keeps growing. We approached the city with alternative ways of generating revenue. In fact, their goal was to double their current revenue through the businesses. And we said, what if we just all doubled our tax revenue where we can meet that expectation? But unfortunately, they didn't buy that. So now we have this measure that could potentially kill any businesses from coming to Richmond. It's not net revenue, it's gross revenue. And I think what a lot of our city council members have failed to understand is car dealer, yes, they bring in $85 million gross, but their margin on sale per car is very thin. And I don't know, I just feel like this can dramatically change the scope of our city, and we will see a lot more businesses leaving. I'm not very optimistic of this Measure U, and I'm sure we have a lot of hands and questions, and I'll leave with that.
Thank you, James, for this shedding some light on this. But one question I have is, so what can the community do? I know Measure U is passed by the voter, and Lena suggested, or Lena indicated, right, that if it needs to be repealed, that it has to be by voter. But in the meantime, what can the community do? Like you said, we have a lot of businesses in Hilltop. We're trying to attract more businesses in Hilltop, such as grocery stores, and this does not sort of help that cause. So what can we do to help with this cause?
So the measure says that we cannot exceed 5%, which is the cap, but the city council can actually lower the rates. So it does not necessarily have to go back to the voters. The city council can actually look at different categories and determine that certain categories, the rates will be 0.5% or the rates will be 1%. And so I think we need to really speak to the city council concerning Measure U and how we want businesses to come to Richmond by increasing such a high percentage gross rate that is far beyond any of the other cities here in the Bay Area. We are literally stopping from businesses from coming in. So I think speaking at the city council meeting, calling them individually with your concern, that we should revisit what Measure U and the percentage rate for the gross revenue.
Mr. Lee, I would thank you very much.
Hold on, Lorraine, hold on.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, there are other people in front. I'll call your name. Just keep your hand raised. I want to make sure I'm fair to everyone here. Okay, Judy, you're next. Judy? Okay, we'll move on to Marietta.
Hi, James. And thanks for enlightening us about Measure U. So was Measure U intended to hit Chevron or the larger businesses where they can help the community with that, 5% money? Or I'm just trying to, it's terrible that we are driving away business because those are hefty fines kind of to do business here. But I'm just wondering if there's a way that maybe we can do another measure where it's hitting larger corporations and not small businesses, and we could all kind of rally to lower that percentage to 3%.
I have not personally talked to Chevron about Measure U, but it's my understanding that they're exempt from Measure U because they already have an agreement with the city. So it's not targeting Chevron. And I think that's the misconception. And second, the city, I love our city. I don't want everyone to bring down the city staff, but there was a representation that the Measure U is going to fix the roads. Measure U will bring more program for our youth. And those were kind of the selling point, but Measure U actually, the money goes to general funds. And that general fund can be used to, in any ways of paying staff higher wages, all the way down to whatever the city wants to do. So it's never funneled into exactly where that funding goes to. Ideally, if it went to bringing more businesses, more money for equity business applicant who may not have money, we can support them to help them start businesses. I think all of us would engage in that conversation, but because the money goes into general funds, we don't know where that money goes to. And second question you mentioned about, does it affect the bigger business? Yes, but we have to remember, particularly, let's say wholesalers, their gross may be high, but their margins are very slim.
Right.
And so what happens is the intention of targeting the bigger businesses is not reality, because it's affecting mid-sized businesses and small businesses, because you can run a cafe that can generate $500,000 a year, but they're run by mom and pops, people who work 7 days a week, only generating potentially $70,000 income net, but they're being gross taxed on their $500,000 revenue.
Right.
And that's my concern.
Yeah, it's not fair. I get it. I'm like, why is Chevron exempt? Can we get up on that? Like, no, I don't. For all the stuff they release in the air, I'm not okay with that. Just, it's kind of crazy that they're exempt from it. And is there any way to find out how we can fix that?
I'm not sure. I think because of modernization tax, they were taxing them far beyond what Measure U would pay. And I'm actually not sure about Chevron.
Hey, next, Lorraine.
Hi. Yeah, this is such an important conversation. I was wondering if, because I like the idea about writing to the city council, could we consider doing like a change.org or some kind of petition so we could get more involvement? I think this was the fallout of this Measure U wasn't maybe realized. And we have seen so many businesses leaving. And we have to do something as citizens. This is horrific. And I think even changing it to a lower percentage is still going to be an issue. And it's based on gross and not net. And you know what happens in business is we will ultimately pay a higher price with most businesses. We're going to pay more for that car, for whatever it may be. So it's just, this is very serious, and definitely would like to help with in whatever way we can get something going with this. So, and thank you very much.
Hey, Arto, you next.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this was written by the Richmond Progressive Alliance. They were voted in to the city council. This is Claudia Jimenez's and Gail's brainchild. And so the best thing to do is start recognizing who you're voting for, and don't vote for RPA. But that being said, Harry, my friend, owns the gas station up there by the cemetery. He's going through the same thing. He's wondering if he should pass on the cost to the consumers. And I told him if he does that, his gross receipts will go up and they'll charge him even more the following year for his license. My other friend went from $700 a year for his license to $14,000. So once again, you just have to be aware of who you're voting in, and maybe start tuning into the city council meetings, because this is very serious.
Anyone else have anything? Judy, are you still on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, this is Judy, Hilltop Auto Mall. And Measure U is going to be a serious problem. I mean, clearly, you've all been to a dealership, we can't pack up and move overnight. This is going to be a This is going to be a problem, and we're not going to leave without a fight because it's not right. We're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars more than the city of Oakland. If we were Costco and had equal receipts as Costco, we'd pay $100,000 more than Costco. The math is all wrong, and the answer that it was voted in by the voters, we would have voted for it. We were under the impression that our rates were going to go up about 10 times. So for an average dealer was paying $3,500 a year, we thought we were going to pay $35,000 a year. And we were good with that. We want police, we want good roads, we want it all too. But paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we employ 500 people between the 6 stores. We have 500 people. The average pay, Mr. Lee figured out, was $90,000 a year. They have a full benefit package for themselves, their families, a 401k. We're good members of the community, and we want to stay. But we can't do this. We can't pay this, and I just want you to know that. We can't. There's something very wrong. There's something wrong with what's going on here. And it's hard because when a voter when the general public looks at a ballot and they say, oh, they're going to only pay $3.49, that's very confusing. $3.49 when cars are up to what, $100,000 now, adds up to $271,000 a year for a business license. And mind you, with the price of our cars, we generate thousands, hundreds of thousands in sales tax revenue for the city of Richmond. We may be one of the biggest sales tax revenue generators that there are when you combine the 6 of us together. So I just want, it's going to be a problem. It really is. It's upsetting. And when I didn't know anything about this Horizon project, that is so exciting to have more retailers there. The more retailers kind of stick together. One brings in one. If you got a good restaurant, if you got a good car dealer, if you got it generates. It just keeps generating traffic. You're not going to be able to get anybody to move in there unless you subsidize their business license for 2 years, and then they'll leave. So now you're going to have this constant turnover, which isn't good. I mean, that doesn't work either. But yeah, you're not. It's a great project. It looks so good. I'd be excited about it, but you're never going to be able to attract people. It's not going to happen unless you have just little mom and pop shops that don't generate a whole lot of tax revenue. So I don't know what else I could say. Mr. Lee's on the phone now too. So I don't know if he wanted something.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to affect quality of life, workforce development. Costco, we're going to put millions of dollars of expanding their Costco store, bringing more employee to Costco. But now they said they're not going to do that. Why should they do that? And what's going to happen is as businesses starts to leave, there's going to be more vacant stores, which will bring more crime and less traffic. It all ties together. We have to understand that businesses partner with the city, but the city has made the business the enemy. So it's been tough. I get calls at least once or twice a week, people angry, emotional, some even crying, how am I going to survive?
Thank you, James and Judy. Really appreciate you coming out here and talking about this very, very important issues. And I want to encourage everyone that's on this call to get involved. As you heard from the folks that are directly impacted by this, this is a really short-sighted policy and measure. Look at the amount of sales tax revenue that we generate, and if you were to lose even one of those dealerships, that would be very terrible for our area. And as you know, we're encouraging Prologis to bring more businesses, but with this environment, it's a tough sell even for them. So we need all this resolved and taken care of before we sort of envision the big picture for the Hilltop area. Anyone else?
Can I say one more? Or can I add one more item
Sure.
to the tax? In addition to the sales tax that we generate, I think among 6 dealerships, we bring in between $1.5 to $2 million of tax revenue to City of Richmond. But also, in addition, we bring in about another $1 million every year in district tax. That's basically the road and the surrounding improvement tax.
The HLMD.
Yeah, that's a Hilltop district.
Landscape management.
Yeah, so we're talking about tremendous dollar amounts that will be lost once the dealerships started leaving. So we actually can do business in other cities, such as Hercules, Pinole, San Pablo. All these cities are an option. As Judy pointed out, we can't just pack up and leave, but we can start planning ahead, maybe next 2 years or 3 years. We may actually physically move some of our operations if we cannot change the Measure U. Because a couple of the dealerships, the smaller dealerships that we have, the Measure U tax will literally take away every single dime of our net profit. So we basically end up working for a City of Richmond, not for a business entity itself. So out goes all those taxes that we generate for the City of Richmond, and also hundreds of jobs, good paying jobs, will be lost permanently to another city. So
and it will be permanent because other dealers are not allowed to move into our space.
Right.
So Bobby, this is Erica. I'm wondering if there's a way we can like start a committee of Citizens Against Measure U, get more people involved. So we need to do this quickly. And I don't know what next steps are, but to me, getting the media involved, making a big ruckus about it, the city council will have to look at us. So I don't know how many people have spoken up, but maybe we're not making enough noise. It's always the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. So
I think a petition would be a great idea.
We just really need to get this going and get the motivation going instead of just having 1 or 2 people do it. Maybe we can work with James Lee on this, but we really need to get as many people as possible involved, make a public statement, get the media involved, because this is ridiculous, because businesses are losing money and we're not going to have the revenue for the city, and yet you're paying all this sales tax. That just, to me, is crooked and it's wrong. I'm not calling the city crooked, but it sounds crooked to me.
Well, we met with Gail, Claudia. They were very cordial, but nevertheless indifferent, I guess is how I put it. I tried to request another meeting with the 3 other council members that may be neutral at this time. I have not been able to schedule that meeting, but I think phone calls and emails to city manager, to those city council members, remaining council members, may be helpful in voicing their support for at least modifying some of the Measure U applications. Because for whatever the reason, they decided to pick on auto dealers. So auto dealers are paying about 3 times higher rate than the next highest tax bracket. And we operate on the thinnest margin of all the businesses that probably in Richmond altogether. We don't operate on 10%, 20% margin. Our net profit margin on the normal year is 1.5 to 2.5% of our gross revenue. And we have huge gross revenue. But just because we sell $100,000 car does not mean that we make $20,000, $30,000 on that car. No, sometimes we sell $100,000 car at a loss. But our average profit in the normal year is about 3,000, 2,500 to about 3,000, even if it is a $100,000 car. So person who, or the company that, consulting company that came up with the Measure U didn't know the auto industry, didn't understand the business, came up with this very elementary, very crude math calculation to come up with, this business tax applications. So we need to appeal to the remaining council members that may be neutral, maybe in support of changing some of the sections of the Measure U. I need the community support to write emails, making phone calls to the remaining council members. I don't think we're going to change Claudia or Gail's mind at this time.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, we will, that's why I got in touch with James Lee, and we'll come with a plan. We can even write a letter from the neighborhood council, or the nearby neighborhood council, the city council. So we can do that as well. I know there's a couple of hands in the chat as well. Sean, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. For those thinking about doing petitions and things like that, I just wanted to convey that this is something I've looked into quite a bit, and I've spoken with quite a few different, stakeholders on this. And just as recently as Tuesday at the city council meeting, or the week before, I spoke about this, and Claudia and others, basically the RPA. I mean, I'm not saying anything disparagingly, but just the RPA 4 who statistically always vote as a block virtually on just about everything, are on the record saying that, quote, businesses should pay their fair share. And so they've basically said that they think this is fair. And what I find interesting is, I've spoken to about 3,000 people around the city in the last few months, and this has come up quite a bit, and I've yet to meet someone who thinks it's fair. So we could get petitions all day long. It won't change their minds, just circumstantially based on what we've seen. I think I would ask Dawn and Judy and others to hang in there. You might have to weather it through to the next election, but I think, this is really a question of how politics are being done in this city, and they know it's not fair. They know it's not fair, and they don't care. That's the only conclusion that I think any reasonable person can come to. So, but I would say hang on, because there's new leadership coming.
Lorraine, you have your hand up from the previous comment, or you have a new comment?
Oh, that was hand up still.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, well, that is all we have for tonight. Anybody else have any last minute comments, questions, suggestions?
One more there from Cordell.
Yes. Can you hear me, Bavin?
Yes, I can. Cordell, welcome.
Yes. So thank you. So my name is Cordell Hendler, and I'm the member of the Park Plaza Neighborhood Council, and I apologize for coming on late. So, but I do have some news to share that's kind of related to the Hilltop in general. So I was looking at the city council agenda for this coming Tuesday, and there's an item on the consent calendar regarding the assessment report from the engineers. So put this on your calendar. It's going to be on June 21st at 6:30. It's going to be a public hearing. So you guys can either write in or call in. So to lend your support about the proposed assessment. So I thought I'd let y'all know ahead of time.
Yeah, that's engineering's report that you're talking about. I just got a copy of the report today, and I'll send it out to the membership. But it's the yearly thing that gets voted on when an engineer's report is done on our assessment.
Oh, good. I thought I'd let y'all know ahead of time.
All right. Anybody else? Also, you see your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that they are looking at going for vacant parcel tax as well. So if you know anybody that's got a blighted property or vacant properties, they are going to tax the hell out of them. So, this is Richmond. Be careful who you vote for. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you,
Can
everyone.
I ask one more quick? Can I
Sure.
ask one quick question? My hand button's gone. James Lee, do you know what category warehousing falls under Measure U? I can't find warehousing under Measure U.
I think they're recategorizing the warehouse, so I haven't been informed what that would look like.
Thank you. And really, thank you to everybody. Everybody's been so positive tonight. It's a great meeting.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone. On a last note, please go ahead and sign up for the membership so you can hear updates on a regular basis from us on things like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and one last thing. The membership drive is gonna be June the 18th, and I have it for 10:30 to 1. But I'm gonna verify the time, but the date is correct. So please come for the membership drive on June 18th at Summer Lane. More information to come. And pay your dues is is $10 to $15, right? So you can email me or do what, PayPal or Venmo. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.